Hey everybody, welcome back to the greenhouse. Today I'm gonna walk you through and show you some updates I made to the greenhouse, and I'm gonna show you some problems I'm having right now and how I'm trying to correct them. And also I'm gonna show you guys how I weed the greenhouse. Dan McCoy had asked me to make a video on that, and I'm definitely gonna do what you guys are asking, so I'm gonna make a video on how I weed the greenhouse. If you guys aren't familiar with Dan, he's a really good grower in Minnesota. He's the current world record holder for giant tomatoes, and this year he's trying to get the world record for giant cucumber. He has a diary on bigpumpkins.com that I love following, and I'm going to put a link to it in the description. You guys can learn a lot of things about the way he grows, so definitely go check out his page there. So the first problem I was having was with my irrigation system, these wobblers. They were dripping and I was getting wet spots on the ground that got pretty mucky. So what I ended up doing is I ordered these anti-drip devices from Seninger, and I installed these throughout the entire greenhouse. After these were installed, I had the problem with these drip devices. I wasn't getting enough pressure to activate both on these individual lines. The reason for that is this is a 20 psi flow meter or pressure regulator, and for whatever reason these are activated at around probably like 18 psi, and the way these are activated is they're spring loaded, and I got one over here taken down. I'm going to show you how they work, and I'm going to show you guys how I fixed them. So basically this is the inner workings. See if I got the top for this in my pocket somewhere. There we go. Alright, so the water comes down. It comes up through this little hole, and it'll push on this guy. I don't know if I can see this. It'll push on that, and the water will go around this gasket. Then when you don't got pressure anymore, this is spring loaded. The spring will bounce back and it'll close off this hole so you don't get any of that drip. Basically, the spring on the inside of here was too big. So what I did is I ended up taking these apart, each one, and I put smaller springs in them. I was going to return them, but I couldn't find another company that made anti-drip devices for my my half-inch MPT wobblers. So I had to go with them, and I fixed them, and they work great now. I love them. You don't get any drip at all. Definitely worth the investment. The other problem I'm having is burn on the leaves. See this burn? It's not good. And it hasn't been real hot out, so I'm thinking I'm probably low in calcium. So I've been adding calcium now. Normally I wouldn't add calcium to my fertilizer program until after pollination, but I'm going to start it earlier this year, seeing as it was so hot early. Normally it's cooler out, and maybe that's why I haven't seen burn in the past. With it being so hot, I'm getting burn on my leaves because I'm not to the point where I'm adding that calcium. So I'm adding calcium now, and hopefully that stops the burn. We'll see though. If it continues on, I'm gonna have to try to be a little bit more tactical on the subject. Another thing I did to prevent burn was I want to try to cool the greenhouse down even more. What I did is, you see I have my side misters. Basically these misters go off. I don't know if I made a video on these. These misters go off, and then I'll have these towers below the mist into the greenhouse underneath the canopy. I didn't think that was giving me enough, so what I ended up doing is I teed off from this line, and I put misters in front of each fan, so when these go off, these high pressure, these high velocity fans will just blow that mist, and it works real well. It's another way I'm cooling the greenhouse down even more. With that being said, now what else we got? We got weeds. So this is the big greenhouse, and there's going to be a lot of weeds in here. It's a daily chore to knock the weeds down. So basically, let's walk over here. I see this edge of the greenhouse. I'll walk through the edge, and I'll spray that with Roundup. I'll do that probably like 3 times throughout the year. I don't want any weeds on this edge, and that's a hard spot for me to crawl because it's probably about 2 feet. I don't want to crawl hand weeding, so I spray that with Roundup. I'll spray the entire patch with Roundup once in the beginning of the year when the plants are small, to kill any like quack grass or anything. But then once the plants start going, I don't really like spraying Roundup. I've never had any ill effects spraying close with Roundup. I've sprayed really close to plants with Roundup, but it's an unnecessary risk, in my opinion now. 2-3 years ago, I probably wouldn't have said that, but now I believe it's an unnecessary risk. So I don't spray with Roundup once they start going. The way I weed is I have this rake, and I got some weeds growing over here, so I'll show you guys how I do this. Basically, you're not going to want to put the rake like this. I back rake, and I'll go through the entire greenhouse, this entire area, and I'll rake these weeds like this. Just knock them down. It works real well on sunny days because you expose the roots to the little weeds and they'll just dry right up and they'll die. I'll go through this entire greenhouse probably like once every 3 days. And as far as weeding underneath the canopy, I will go through the plant twice a year. When I unbury my main, I'll go through there and I'll give her a good weeding, and then later in the fall I'll go through and I'll give a good weeding. But generally, so long as you get the weeds down before the vines start running, the plant will shade out most of the weeds. So really focus on doing a good job weeding ahead of time, and it really helps you out in the long run. Another thing is I'm going to be doing a tissue test this week. I want to see where I'm at. I want to see if I'm actually low in calcium. I'm going to be doing tissue tests on the 2145 McMullen and my 2095 Brandt. And if there's any discrepancy between the two plants, I'm going to end up taking tissue tests of each individual plant, and I'm going to customize each individual fertilizer program. Taking tissue tests before pollination and then like 20 days after fruit set. I'm not going to do a video on the tissue tests I'm taking this week. Actually, Mark Clemets did a really nice video on how he did his tissue test, and I'm going to leave a link in the description how he did that tissue test, and I'm pretty much going to be doing it the exact same way. So definitely go check that out. I'll have pollinations on all three plants, all three of my big plants in the next probably 5-6 days. These two smaller plants, I'm probably going to be looking at late June pollinations, but definitely nonetheless, I'm going to be having pollinations on these by the end of June. Which my 2185 was pollinated at the end of June, so I'm not too concerned about their size right now. I mean, realistically, they're actually pretty good size for this time of the year if you look back like what the average was 2-3 years ago. So I'm definitely happy with the way things are going, and I'll keep you guys posted. Like I said, if there's anything else you guys would like me to talk about, leave it in the description. I'm gonna do everything you guys ask. So otherwise, if you guys don't ask, I'm gonna be doing weekly updates, and if I have problems, I'm gonna show you guys how I solve those problems, and you guys can learn that way. So, all right, guys, thank you for watching again, and take care.